This is Chris Miglino. I am here at the world famous LD Micro Conference in Los Angeles. I am here with Brandon Robinson from New Horizon Aircraft, trades under the symbol HOVR. Brandon, how you doing? Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah. So you guys are building hybrid vehicles, right? Air vehicles. So tell the audience a little bit about.
So think a traditional helicopter performance, so it can take off and land from any heliport or any tiny confined space. But when it travels forward, it converts back into a normal aircraft configuration. So it's about half the cost to operate because it's very simple. And it goes about twice as fast as a traditional helicopter.
Wow.
So that compounds to be about a quarter of the cost per unit mile that a helicopter goes.
All right, so many questions. So can it land at a house?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if you have a 50-foot by 50-foot concrete slab, you can absolutely land it.
Oh, it has to be on concrete.
Or just a firm area, firm flat area.
Okay, so you can land it at a house.
Absolutely.
How far can it fly? And it's because it's a combination of electric and
Hybrid.
Okay.
Yeah, so the hybrid engine, gas still has about 30 times the energy density that even the best batteries have. So we leverage that. We leverage our configuration that's very slick en route. We go about 500 miles with mid loads.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So, and how fast can it go?
About 250 miles an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's quick.
Yeah, it's very.
And do you need a pilot's license to fly this thing?
Yes, you do.
Okay. So you need to be certified. And is there autonomous technology built into the vehicle? So you could say, look, I want to go here and it'll take you there?
Absolutely. So now I was a fighter pilot in the Air Force for about 20 years. I was privileged enough to be able to see the F-35B program, basically the military jet that can hover. We use the same kind of technology and human factors interface to make it very, very simple to fly in the vertical mode. So the aircraft does everything for you, and it's very, very stable. And then en route, when it transitions to its en route configuration, it flies really stably, just like a normal aircraft.
Got ya. Interesting. And is there any, how they have these Cirrus jets that have the parachutes in them? Is there any kind of technology like that in it, or how does that work?
Well, the aircraft is so highly redundant, and it can land under almost any conditions. Now, we're discussing that right now, and that is an option that we're discussing.
Okay, great. And where are you in the development? Where is, when would one be available?
So it's pretty exciting. We have a half-scale prototype that's up and flying right now, doing all sorts of off-tether flight testing, so free flight testing. That's a 22-foot wingspan, 15-foot-long beast of an airplane.
So no persons in it?
No persons in that one.
Okay.
No people in that one. And then we've learned enough from that one that we feel very comfortable designing and building the full-scale aircraft. So we have full-scale aircraft parts being manufactured right now. 2 years from now, we'll have a full-scale aircraft ready to go for flight testing.
And then what's the process after that? How long does it take after that to actually get it to start manufacturing and get it up there?
Yep, so we have some really strong certification partners. So we'll start certification pretty soon on the full-scale aircraft. And by 2028, we should have the first ones rolling off the line, going to customers.
Wow, that's great. And how much are they? What's the estimate value? What it'll cost?
We're looking in the 6 to 7 million range after some discounts for early adopters.
And how many people fit in it?
7 people total. So pilot plus 6 passengers. That means about 1,500 pounds of stuff.
So what's the key market for this? When you think about who's buying this thing, what do you guys envision? Is it like a corporate thing?
Yeah, so a key concept here is we'll start with dual use. So there's military applications for it. I'm pretty proud of that. And then the civilian side. So on the civilian side, think emergency medical services initially. So imagine getting someone to the hospital in half the time or from twice the distance in that golden hour, or transporting time-critical medicines.
Because you can still land as a helicopter, take off, it flies it.
But now you can fly twice as fast and much, much cheaper. So there'll be more of them doing this kind of work, which is amazing. So that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. Getting critical cargo to remote communities. In northern Canada, you got to take a barge a bunch of stuff up to these communities, float it into some inlet, and then skidoo it onto to these communities. You can fly some of this stuff right into the actual community. All they need is an open flat area for the airplane to land. It's pretty exciting. So supporting some critical cargo delivery stuff is next, and then moving people in a more efficient way regionally. So not a lot of people know this. In the U.S., there's 5,000 underutilized regional airports. So 80% of all traffic flows through 20% of the airports. If we can start take a trip back to the 70s when we actually could go from region to region, it didn't have to travel to a major hub. That's a pretty cool way to fly. So now opening up those 5,000 regional airports for kind of the more liberal way to fly around the world.
And $7 million would be kind of in the more it's not the cheaper jets that are coming out, right? Because those are selling at like the $2 million range, but the single pilot, there's some single pilot Honda jet, I think it's like $7 million, right? Or something like that.
Well, compared to any helicopter that has equivalent capacity, it's going to be on par with that.
Got you. So you guys are using not the jets, but the helicopters as the price.
And those VTOLs, Joby and Archer, they're all in a $5 to $6 million range that they floated to. So that's competitive for what it's worth with some of the larger players.
Got you. Interesting. And is there any electric helicopters that are coming into the market, or do a lot of people compare what you're doing to the electric, kind of drone flying?
Yeah, unfortunately, we do get compared to the all-electric machines. So with all-electric machines, they're going to do great work. Don't get me wrong. But they're going to be range limited initially. They're carrying thousands of pounds of batteries on board, then hundreds of pounds of stuff, where we're carrying thousands of pounds of stuff and only hundreds of pounds of battery, right? Because we're hybrid electric, and we're going to go a little bit further. So it's a bit of an apples and oranges comparison when you take an all-electric machine that can go 100 kilometers compared to our 500 to 800 kilometer machine.
Right. That's a big difference.
Yeah, it is a big difference.
Yeah. And that's especially if somebody, if you're needing to make that trip all the time, it opens up another audience for you. I mean, just think about people using this in New York City. If you're 100 kilometers away versus 500 kilometers away. I mean, you can't make it to the Hamptons on 100 kilometers.
No, you can't.
No, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
So those devices are not going to work for that trip, but yours would.
Correct. So yeah, there's a lot of, so that's one example. There are a lot of examples. I mean, it's going to be a huge market. We're pretty excited about it.
What do you, besides the medical and the military, what do you think are the other biggest applications?
So we mentioned the kind of the time-sensitive cargo and the critical cargo delivery. Right. We mentioned kind of a new way to move people around on a regional scale. So small story, we used to fly the jets out of Miramar in southern, near San Diego.
All right.
Like where Top Gun 1 was kind of filmed. You take off and you fly right over Torrey Pines and you look north and there's always like 12 lanes of jam-packed traffic.
All right.
And they're just not moving. And if each one of those would just look up, that bottom 5,000 feet's not being used, we're somehow accustomed to this two-dimensional sort of travel mode. And air travel is only, for very specific long leg type stuff. The future's not going to be like that. We're going to be able to more efficiently move people and stuff in that third dimension. And these types of new machines can do that.
And you think that there'll be all kinds of rules about, the flow of that traffic?
Yeah, so not really well known. I mean, that in that bottom 5,000 feet, call it the bottom 10,000 feet, not a lot of commercial air traffic actually flies in that area.
Right.
And so it's not that dense. So the current structure could hold a significant amount of more traffic. Thered be more air traffic controllers required and some systems to be put in place, but you don't need to reinvent the wheel in order to fit these machines into that airspace right now anyway.
So what are the next catalysts for the business? Like what should the investors be looking for? What's next?
So we'll have some upcoming exciting news about the progress of our half-scale prototype, potentially making transition flights right to en route mode, something only a few companies in the space have actually done. So transitioning from where it's hovering to when it's flying normally, there's only a few companies in the world that have done that with a large-scale prototype.
Really?
Yep. So we'll be updating hopefully in the next couple of months about the status of our flight test program. And then I think it's going to be really exciting for investors to see the full-scale aircraft come together. And, we'll show some videos about how that's happening and the propulsion units and then the actual airframe itself. And that'll be really exciting over the next couple of years.
All right, great. Well, the stock is, if you like this story and you believe in the future of this, this flight, I think the stock's an amazing value right now for people to get involved.
Any other company with large-scale prototypes that are flying and legitimate technology, I mean, their market caps are several X ours.
Well, there's one player in this space that's multi-billion-dollar market cap. What's the
Joby? Like
a multi-billion-dollar market cap.
Billion, yeah.
Wow. So there's a long way between where you are now and there.
500X or whatever it is.
And they're years away from having a product out in the market, right?
Correct.
Okay, well, I think, it's worth, especially for people that are involved in that stock, this is a great hedge against that as well.
Yep.
So if you own, some of these other, stocks for these, what would you call those? Drone
eVTOL.
Okay. So if you're in any of those, this would be an alternative to look at. So I'd give it a look. HOVR, put it on your symbol or put it on your screen and check it out. And thanks for coming to see us, Brandon. Thank you very much. Keep us up to date. Thank you. Appreciate